Welcome to the Creative Plan Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews of items, and convention panels, and other exciting things that we run into from time to time. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kellie, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion to Ragnarok story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Jim, Kellie, Andee, Anaia,
And
Franklin, maybe. For RPGaDay2019 August the 14th, and the word is guide. Guide.
Like a forest?
As in like guideline, as in like...
It's more of a guideline, really.
Adventurer guide,
Right.
as in like
I'll
ranger
go.
guide.
I'll go. When you say guide, it made me think of my Scion character, Trixie, because she was my only Scion character that one of her birthrights was a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And in Scion, and this is the old school Scion because I haven't played the new one yet. Guides were kind of like, almost like a talking head kind of NPC kind of thing, where just to give you a nudge in the right direction. Hers was her mother, Madame Devora, because she was a fortune teller on the Atlantic boardwalk
in Jersey.
Yeah, in Jersey. Her real name was Deborah, but she went by Madame Devora.
I love it.
So Trixie could call her mom, Of course, her mom was always says, "When am I going to get grandchildren?" Hey. But for guides, she could get an impression or that type of thing to help maybe fill in some gaps or urge her in a direction. So when I think of guide, that's the first thing that I thought of.
So the word of the day is guide. Guide. So I'll go next, and I'll throw out the GM metagaming since we were talking about metagaming last time. A guide in an adventure. A good guide is there for the players, doesn't actually do the lifting for the players, and will further the story off and fade into the background so the heroes can be the stars of the show. And I will throw out the best guide reference out there. There's two of them, actually, but my best one. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He shows up, gives the kid Excalibur, the lightsaber, and then tells him all about what needs to motivate him in life of Darth Vader the Big Bad killed your daddy from a certain point of view. And in 3 days in hyperspace, I can teach you the first level Jedi skills that you need, and then I will be killed by the Big Bad to further motivate you that the Big Bad is truly the Big Bad. So I've given you the means, the opportunity, and I've gotten out of your way so you can do it. Because let's be honest, it's like Forgotten Realms. Problem with Forgotten Realms, there's so many NPC guides out there, they'll just do it themselves. Mm-hmm. Can you really go into Forgotten Realms and do anything that Drizzt couldn't have done over the weekend?
So who's the second one?
No.
You mentioned the second one.
The second one might be related to the first one because it's Merlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same archetype.
It's the same character.
Same
just
archetype.
Yeah. Merlin shows up, teaches Arthur what it means to be lawful good, sets everything up, warns him about the lady he loves, that she's going to be trouble, and steps back and lets nature take its
Exit
course.
stage left.
Like a good parent warns them, but then steps back to let them learn. Which is what a guide really is basically the parent that gives you your training wheels, gives you the confidence, and good luck, kid.
The guide shows you the path, tells you the basics of what you need to succeed on the path, but then you have to do it yourself.
Gives you a
But it
costume.
doesn't give away everything.
Isn't that kind of what a GM is in general?
Well, yeah,
well,
GM is a story guide.
Well, then that's your interpretation of guide is the GM.
Another good example of guide is in the D&D cartoon, the Dungeon Master character.
Okay, I liked that cartoon, but I couldn't stand that little friggin' unicorn. I hated Uni so much.
Well, Uni was brought there for the kids that was the barbarian's age because they said put something even younger in there. Fit the dynamic. And then you get this, I'm still waiting that Dungeon Master was the father, Tiamat was the mother, Venger was the kid. And the whole time Tiamat's chasing Venger to say, go to bed!
Uni was the Jar Jar Binks, okay?
Uni was the Jar Jar Binks.
Not as annoying as Jar Jar, but...
Yeah.
No. in your perspective. I don't know. I've always thought that the GM was like a really... Not in a lot of the newer games like Fate and whatnot because it's more of a cooperative. But I've always felt like the GM was your guide, right?
Your tour guide on this magical adventure.
Or in the White Wolf series, how they weren't GMs, they were storytellers, which is basically another way to say guide. And then you had like your clan books or whatever, and those were like guides on how to play your character for your specific clan, but you could go and do other stuff if you wanted to, too. I always really liked the narrative in the White Wolf books.
Mm. Yeah, it's one that I like.
Once again, I don't have a lot of experience with, because I tend to get into games where we go off the path very quickly.
What is this path you speak of?
I don't know. I think the game we're playing right now...
This one is probably the most successful game I've ever been a part of. The one with the D&D that we're playing here.
It's one that we're not podcasting.
Yeah.
Okay,
because
qualifier, that is a balloon.
Oh, it was really good cake for your birthday.
But I can talk about, like, bad guides, maybe. But
try to keep it positive.
Try to keep it positive.
Yeah. What is it you look for in a positive guide? Give examples of what's a good guide.
Somebody who keeps you wanting to move forward.
So keeps the energy and keeps focus.
Keeps you engaged.
Yeah, I like the guides that are like, and look into the distance. That thing is this thing that's really cool, and let's go this way. And so you're like, oh, let's go that way. That looks like a lot of fun. And then they're like, but we're going to go this way because there's this other really cool thing. Mm. And you're like, but that cool thing. And but this
that's
cool thing.
But this is cooler.
Yeah, and then you figure out that the guide is taking you to the really cool thing. And those are the kinds of things I like.
Where you don't necessarily realize you're going to, you're not going up a straight path to the cool thing, you're taking a windy road.
Yeah, you're taking the
scenic route.
Mm-hmm. The scenic route for you to get all the experience in the world.
And so that you don't die when you get to the road.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like you're playing Final Fantasy and farming the experience.
I think that's initially what my first game was trying to do. And I just think he wasn't that experienced to be able to do it. And he had a bunch of hard heads.
See, that could be hard too.
Yeah, but he also couldn't read his audience, apparently.
He tried his best.
Yeah, but that comes from experience.
Mm-hmm. And it was his first game, and his brain baby, so it was all fine.
He just needed more experience or a jam guide.
Yeah.
Which, I always joke the best way to get better jamming is to play with other jams. Play in more groups, get more styles, see what works, what doesn't
Different
work.
writing styles and see which works for you.
For sure.
Okay, Franklin, what do you think for guide?
Thinking of guides actually makes me think of Exalted, which has an entire character type that act as guides.
Oh, those are
So like a player character?
The sidereals.
The
sidereals.
Mm-hmm.
You have the.
Is this a player character type?
Yes, it's a player. It's a potential player character type. You have in the setting. You have what they call the Celestial Exalted and Terrestrial Exalted, and the Terrestrials were like the foot soldiers, but they rose up and they overthrew the Celestial Exalted and took over. So the Terrestrials run the world basically now, and the Celestial Exalted, there are 3 types. There are your Solars, who are like the God Kings, and they're very, very powerful. They're godlike. There are the Lunars, which are like the generals, and
generally
they're
shapeshifters.
And then there's the Sidereals, which are kind of like the advisors, mage types. And
They're
they're
very
basically,
enigmatic.
they were supposed to exist as the guides for the Solars. The Solars were the rulers, and then the Lunars were their generals who ran their armies, and then the Sidereals were their advisors.
Council.
Right. But then they were the Solars were overthrown by the Terrestrials because the Solars got cursed and became
as one does,
and became amoral and
Decadent.
decadent, right?
Absolute
And in
corrupts.
the actual game, the Solars are returning. They were all killed before, but they're returning, and they're discovering who they are and what they are. And
Reincarnated.
Reincarnation, yes. And the Sidereals are behind the scenes, and there's factions within the Sidereals. One faction of the Sidereals actually orchestrated the overthrow of the Solars by backing the Terrestrial Exalted.
Because they had become too
Giving them
decadent.
right.
They had to hit
But
the
there's
reset
another
button.
faction that believed society would not rise to the heights it once had without the Solars. So there's a faction of the Sidereals that want to bring the Solars back.
Huh.
So that's an interesting thing. It's like it's an entire character archetype that you can use as a player character, where your entire purpose is as a guide.
AKA plot device.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, and you know, plot is nothing more than a guide to a story. You know?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know, one more thing for guide that
Uh-huh.
we didn't mention: players' handbooks. The
Yeah,
actual,
the actual player's
Yeah,
guide.
that's pretty
yeah,
much,
the players' guides, the different, you know, for each RPG has some type of guide, you know,
Mhm.
handbook for the players. And I'm a big fan of having one in hardback.
Oh yeah.
I just
Dead Tree
love
format
having
is-
the, you know, and it's just, for me, it's just more evocative and, you know, tangible. I like that, but the guides are so important. And
Well, for me, when it comes to hardback guides, you cannot flip from one page to the next in a digital format. You just
No.
can't do
Mhm.
it. I've
Even
never.
with- even
I
with
like being able
hyperlinks,
to
you're
have
still-
two.
Yeah.
you know, okay, I can flip to this page and this page,
Yeah,
so
you
I
can't
can
just
see
go
half elf
do, do, do.
and I can see cleric at the same,
Right.
like just by going like this.
Yeah.
Or, you know, oh, okay, I have, you know, a halfling bard, you know, and I can flip. Okay,
Mhm.
so I get this for my proficiency bonus. Flip, you know,
Mhm.
back and forth as I'm creating my character and stuff. So yeah, that's a good
Yep.
point. And you can have your own little post-it tabbies.
Mhm.
It doesn't
I
hurt the book.
Strongly agree.
Never use a paperclip
No.
ever.
Wait, what? That's a thing?
Yeah,
People would put-
you will post-its and yeah.
No, but
The paper
before post-its,
yeah,
people
yeah.
would use paper clips.
Paper clips.
But it
Add
tends
to
the
the book.
pages.
Yeah.
and-
That hurt
Yeah.
my heart.
I know. But okay, some of us before there were post-its.
Sorry.
I just
Um,
use scraps of paper.
Yeah. I did too.
But then there's the real heathens that
Cliff notes.
No.
Oh, bend the
Oh,
pages!
dog ear.
Dog ear
Take
that
a,
shit
take a
in a
hardback
second.
book and leave it open.
Sacrilege.
Break
Oh
the
my
back
God.
of it.
Yeah. So
And I'll throw out there, since you're speaking of player's guides, read your player's guide. Read your
yes,
class.
read your.
I don't expect you to know your neighbor's class, but know your class.
Mhm.
Because nothing helps a GM more than a player who knows their class. Because a lot of times we're like in the middle of a story and we're all in the narrative, and you say, "My guy's going to do this and this, this," and I'm like, "Sure, it's your class. You're the expert in it. You must know it, right?" And they'll let things slide, and then I'll also be like, "I made a mistake. I didn't do this one thing that I should have been doing." And like, and we're going to keep going because we're not going to go
'Cause,
retcon.
yeah.
But I'll rake you over the coals next time because I wrote it down on my cliff notes.
Uh-huh.
I have my GM's guide.
I'm a big fan of specific guides, like if you get a whole guide focusing on one specific character class, where they break it
Playbooks.
down, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
like
I'm
the
a-
clan books.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where they break it down into detail, and you can get into detail, and they tell you how to kind of different ways to customize it and make it your own. That way, everybody doesn't make, like, if you get
The
2 or 3 people who
same.
play the same class, they can all be different.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
most of us come from the old school Levy now, that we wrote out our players' abilities and things on paper, where you had that 5 to 6 page character sheet, especially we
Your
all played White
backgrounds
Wolf,
and
where you need that paragraph to explain that one ability you have, because you know you're going to forget it in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And you're not going to flip through 3 different books to find them all. So you
Yeah.
have that
Right.
rewritten. And honestly, writing down your abilities as opposed to just printing it out really does reinforce your character.
Yeah, absolutely.
so you can create your own
Own
guide.
Uh-huh.
And I do that, like with my changeling, because I have so many personas and stuff. I have, not only do I have a little mini background of her, I have a synopsis of each of her main personalities, her personas, that the ones that she will, have.
Flip between.
Yeah, because they can have personas which can have completely different philosophical beliefs.
You probably even have like
everything,
keywords and stuff
Yeah.
on
yeah,
there to
and
help you.
well, and
And
there's
what
certain
the accents are.
so that, and I made each one of my the teammates a copy of it, so they know. Not only do I have my little nameplates that I'll put out when I switch characters, but they have a reference just in case. And eventually, I'm going to have little drawings of each.
I did the same thing with my Malkavian that had multiple personalities.
Yeah, and
that's rough.
it helps. You have this to guide you as well.
Yeah, but unfortunately, my Malkavian was for a LARP, so I had to have backup costumes in the trunk.
Oh my god.
And I would change outfits because
Lovely.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
It's too hot to do that out here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, this was San Diego at night.
Oh, never mind. That's a little different.
It was a lot easier.
And as a GM, having your character guide is good too, where you just put name, who they are, and what TV star accent you're copying for their persona to stay in character.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in a long time, but I used to do that all the time. So that way I just put what character from what TV show, so that way my head would get me to the right channel of the character.
Very cool.
Yeah. Usually, and I have I'll have a saying that I say to myself for the accent to try and put me into that character's, if when I'm playing my halfling rogue, it's like, "Hi, I'm Kilda," and it's like, okay,
You and your
now
honey
and then it
biscuits.
triggers, and then it's like my name is Sister Solus, I'm like, I'll have my tiefling cleric or something.
Well, I definitely
And-
did that stuff for plays and musicals.
Well, that's all
the same
RPG
acting.
So,
is
yeah.
is improv
Improv.
acting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So-
Once I figure out the character, there's no stopping.
And that's what
That's-
our player, our
Player's
backgrounds and our personality traits. And that's why also, depending on the game, I write up a backstory, or, I have, not just
I
sometimes
love
the
writing
little.
backstories. They're the best.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, is because your backstory can be a good guide, but it can also be handy. So we have a vampire game that I'm starting to GM that we're playing on the nights that we can't get together on our Thursday nights. And for my birthday this past June, they bought me the vampire books.
Fifth
So
edition.
now we're going to transfer the old school 2nd edition vampire to the new school 5th edition stuff. But if you have a character from one to the other, that might be a little bit difficult. But not if you have a backstory,
Uh-huh.
because that backstory can guide you into what's going to be appropriate for the new system.
Backstories
giving
convert way better than character sheets.
Yeah.
And giving your backstory to your GM or storyteller can help.
Not devised.
Give
It
that,
can-
exactly.
Again,
I
it's a
always
guide for the
provide
GM
it to
that they
them.
can pull
the
stories
GM
out of, yeah.
of what you want for your character.
And it invests the players. He's just doing it to make sound and distract us because he wants to be a part of what we're doing. But when you give your backstory to the GM, one of the things that happens is it makes the player be more invested in the game because it's directly related to something that they created.
Yeah.
I'm still writing that backstory.
I know.
I know, like my
You're gonna get a book or
character
something.
Sister Solace, who I miss playing this character because she had this deep, dark backstory that none of the other players know about. I mean, and it's like, but it could easily be fed into as a plot device. So she never got to have, any of it brought to the light as because she was a cleric of Pillar. And exactly, but it's like she had such a rich history, and it's like,
Then you have the characters that you've played for a really long time.
And
like I have a character that's similar like that, but I've played her for such a long time. She has this huge history, and then you don't get to play them anymore.
I know, like my character Val. I have all these written stories about her. Because the character took on a life of her own. Some of them have never been, published like on the Creative Playing Podcast Network and stuff. But it's like...
And reward your players for writing up backstories.
Yeah.
Like White Wolf, I used to always give them points for writing backstories.
Yep. Or you would just give them special abilities because it just fit the backstory so well. You're like, you have to have this background. I don't care if it costs points. It's just appropriate.
Yeah.
I have a character that's like that with D&D. She's a sea elf.
I have a sea elf
and
too.
She's half sea elf, half wood elf.
Mine too. Mine's half human.
Yeah, so she had to be half wood elf in original D&D because then she could actually go out on land for extended periods of time. Yeah, she wouldn't be out there for 2 hours and be like,
Someone throw.
That's why I went with the half elf as well.
Yep. But then she moved over to Rollmaster, and that was fun because I started. She was kind of like, started off as a ranger priest in D&D, and then we moved to Rollmaster, and she became more of a pirate.
Oh, what a coincidence! Mine actually is a.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
She's a druid.
One of our other players. I don't know what it is. Sometimes you have another person that you play with that it's just like you guys are bosom buddies in the game all the time, and that was me and our other friend, and she had a habit of hitting on all the high level people that she would meet, and so he would be like, "Okay, this is who she's doing now." Okay, she was successful in seducing this person, and he had like my little black book that he would just go around behind me and be like, "Dang!" It was pretty fun.
It's more of a guideline.
Hey, my sea elf is definitely promiscuous.
Yeah. I miss that character so much.
We're trying.
I know.
Make the baby version of her.
There's never enough time for all the games.
But my changeling bard is not. But one of her characters is a bit of a seductress when she doesn't fail horribly at her arm roll.
Does that wrap up guide?
Yeah, that's a good time to wrap up guide. So keep it within the guidelines, guide rails, guide stuff.
Down in the depths of the mountain, we dwarves spend our time forging powerful weapons, mining precious gems and metals, and feasting like kings. But after a day of digging for the next Arkenstone, this dwarf likes to come home to a package full of loot. Dungeon Crate is a monthly subscription box service forged specifically for RPG and tabletop gamers. Miniatures, dice, tokens, coins, maps, modules, terrain pieces, handcrafted items, RPG jewelry, and more are yours for only a few gold per month. You even get a digital crate along with a physical one as an added bonus. So are you brave enough to reward yourself with a Dungeon Crate? By Morden's beard, I hope so. DungeonCrate.com. Let the adventure begin.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition, and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.